Shopping blitz on the mainland as the world's largest shopping event breaks its own record. What does that say about the state of the Chinese economy? And in stark contrast, terrorists in Hong Kong lit a man on fire. Just the latest in the persisting violence that's now infested the city and university campuses alike. How bad will things turn before they get better? Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you live from Beijing. I'm Li Xin. The world's largest online shopping event broke its own record in a spectacular way. In the very first hour of November the 11th, known as the Singles Day in China, sales on the popular platforms of China's e-commerce giant Alibaba hit 91 billion yuan or $13 billion, up 32% from last year. And sales for the day have so far surpassed last year's total of $30 billion. Clearly, Singles Day offers a huge opportunity for Chinese and overseas companies to showcase their products, but it's also seen as a barometer of the Chinese economy and consumer confidence. How reflective are the numbers this year of the overall picture? What's behind such astronomical numbers, and what does it mean for companies around the world after 16 months of trade frictions between the U.S. and China? I have Professor Gong from the University of International Business and Economics and Dr. Dan Wang, analyst at the Economist Intelligence Unit, a global business intelligence organization. Welcome to both of you to The Point. Now, some basic numbers. As I said, Alibaba says it's grown to more than 200,000 participating brands from 27 in 2009 when they started the Singles Day and from 20,000 in 2017. Now, this year, more than 22,000 are foreign brands from a great variety of countries and regions. And also, the 24-hour event is likely to already pulls in more sales than the U.S.'s biggest shopping days, such as Black Friday, Cyber Monday, combined with a total of 14 billion last year. That's the combined total of the U.S.'s shopping days. Whereas now, as we speak, the latest number from Alibaba is that sales has already broken. We're not 24 hours yet, but the sales number has broken 240 billion yuan. That is already higher than the number of $30 billion of the last year. So, what are the forces driving such incredible amount of deals being made just within a couple of hours, less than a day? John?
Well, I think this represents a broad trend that e-commerce still has a lot of momentum to grow. Overall, e-commerce is about a little bit short of 20% of China's total retail sales. And, you know, a large percentage, reportedly a quarter of the sales happen today, the Singles Day in a year. So this testifies that e-commerce is still very popular. It still has room to grow, and that more and more Chinese consumers are placing orders. I think it also tells us a little bit about the market sentiment out there right now. I think consumers are still willing to spend amid the looming recession people have been talking about. Although the macro statistics are showing that the economy is indeed slowing down, but apparently not on this day. Consumers are still spending, opening up their wallets, so it's a very good thing.
Yeah, Dr. Wang, how do you look at what these numbers are telling us? I mean, some people are saying, yes, the Chinese economy is slowing down, so, you know, sluggishness, people's confidence, but it seems that these numbers, at least very clearly to me, are telling the opposite. But on the other hand, could it be that the people have been waiting, have been, you know, piling their orders so that they spend in one go in this 1 hour? Does it really reflect the true state of the Chinese economy?
Well, it's sort of a story for me, because I put a lot of things on the online shopping cart and just wait until this day to spend it. But still, I would have to say that Chinese consumers are among the most audacious consumers in the world, very adventurous, willing to try new things. So with the varieties they can choose from online, on this day it's not just about buying things, it's a celebration. They want to discover new things, and that's a major driver too.
So what does that say about the state of the Chinese economy? I mean, naturally, if people are fearful of their future, if they're not hopeful of what's going to happen tomorrow, they probably won't spend so much money on shopping in this short period of time.
Absolutely. It says a lot about Chinese consumer confidence. So there are numbers that's reported by the National Bureau of Statistics. But looking at this, and also an event not that long ago, the Costco opening in Shanghai, people queuing up, it made me wonder how much money does Chinese consumer really have? You know, at least the official numbers might be underestimating the levels of income for middle class. And according to our research, about 200 million people in China can be characterized as the middle class, and that's huge consumer power right there.
Well, we've had this U.S.-China trade war, trade friction, however you call it, for 16 months by now, and China's GDP has been characterized as the slowest in almost 3 decades, you know, as reported in many a foreign newspaper. What is the reality, really, John? It seems that these two numbers, these two narratives just don't reconcile.
Well, I'm not sure these two narratives are necessarily in conflict. I think they can be both true. I mean, China's economy is indeed slowing down, you know, in terms of a growth number for the previous quarters, 6.4, 6.2, 6.0, and my prediction is for the last quarter it's going to be even less than 6%. But at the same time, consumers are still spending money. I mean, this is well, let's put things into a little bit perspective. I mean, it's as you said, it's about $280 billion so far, right? I mean, we have 1.4 billion people.
No, 280
billion.
240 billion renminbi.
Yeah,
so
right.
that would translate to over
$200 yuan per person. Yeah. So that's a very significant amount of money on a single day. Every citizen, including children, including elderly, they're spending 200 yuan today. It's a huge amount of money pouring in. I think it's a very good news for e-commerce vendors, store owners, and also as well as for the platform owners, for Alibaba and for JD.com.
Sure. But what about the trade war? I mean, what you hear on TV in the United States is that China has taken a very strong hit, from this trade war, that things are not well, but from the audaciousness that people have, have demonstrated in spending money.
Yeah, I would interpret this way. While China's economy is slowing down, not exclusively because of the trade war. We have a macro environment that's not going well worldwide, and also China has been, its own economy is into this cycle. We've been having this very good year, a very good time for 10 years already. So it's an economy has a life of its own. So I think trade war is only one of the reasons. And second, as you said, I think consumer confidence is still there. I think the Chinese consumers are still willing to spend money, and they have the money actually. So at least on the consumption side, as a part of the GDP, I think we're still seeing very robust growth. I'm betting that we're still going to see some robust growth this year.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly because of the investments, especially probably by foreign companies operating in China. They're probably slowing down on their investment, and also I've seen figures that in the internet space, companies are slowing down, less venture capital spending, for example. And these are probably the reasons we are seeing some slowing down numbers.
Yeah, but in terms of buying, definitely the Chinese are buying, but there is also the question of China buying China or China buying global. It seems that a lot of the criticism or skepticism has been that, look, China, yes, Chinese people are buying, but they're buying their own stuff. As I said at the beginning, to almost 1/3 of the brands come from overseas companies. Actually, a lot of American companies also joined in the party. At least the number was very strong last year. We do not have the final number from this year yet. So what does that say about the prospects of American business joining in the party and reaping the benefits of this ever expanding middle class, Dr. Wang?
So as we know that China is not the strongest in creating its own consumer brand, but China is the best as the manufacturer. So a lot of the brands are from abroad, France, America, but they're produced in China. So what this says is actually as the center of the global manufacturing, China still got it. And with the economic slowdown, there are a lot of worries about investing in China. Maybe later you get hit by tariffs. You don't want to do that. So there is some hesitation there. But overall, the consumer sentiment is still quite upbeat because income is still growing faster than GDP.
No, because
I don't think that Chinese consumers have a sort of a discriminate taste with respect to only domestic products. I think Chinese consumers are, their preferences are quite inclusive. As you can see, there are American companies, European companies also participating in today's party. I mean, there got to be these CEOs very happy about this today. So I think it's the last thing to sort of stir this sentiment about only buying in China. This is not a path we're going to go down. We're going to go down. This is not. It's not good for the economy. This is not good for the Sino-U.S. relations.
Actually, with the numbers from last year, for instance, according to Alibaba, over 40% of Singles' Day shoppers purchased international brands, including Apple, Dyson, Kindle, Estée Lauder, L'Oreal, Nestle, Gap, Nike, and Adidas, and over 240 international brands recorded at least 100 million renminbi or $14 million in sales. So, but the reason why I asked this question was because there was quite a trending theme in a lot of Western media reports. For instance, Forbes talking about Chinese shoppers will boycott American brands during Singles' Day. This was echoed by the Fortune saying Chinese shoppers may boycott U.S. brands on Singles' Day. Bloomberg, American brands aren't getting any love in China Singles' Day. You know, that kind of, I don't know. I mean, they all seem to have copied from the same kind of storyline. Maybe there are other varieties out there, but, you know, this definitely stood out. And the reason why they say that is because they are characterizing a rise of nationalistic sentiment. You know, when we've seen some incidents where foreign brands are seen to sabotage the Chinese pride, for instance, then the Chinese consumers might have a lot of sentiments against that. But is that really the case, that the Chinese shoppers are boycotting or possibly boycotting American brands?
It's not true. I think it's totally not true. I mean, look, the numbers will speak louder than these news stories. At the end of the day, I think, you know, these American companies will be very happy about today's activities. Chinese people, at least I don't think our government has this kind of attitude behind this.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, we're actually not doing this. You know, well, I mean, corporate America is actually, I think it's one of the battles of stabilizing, you know, China-U.S. relationships. They would be the last elements in our society that we could target when it comes to, you know, having a relationship with the United States, even amid this trade war going on.
Yeah, and they're the better informed ones probably as well. By the way, Taylor Swift was the star that Alibaba invited this year to get people even more excited about shopping.
That speaks volume about.
That speaks volume,
yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly, yeah.
So I personally don't feel there's anything wrong with any American brands.
A lot of brands are also owned by Chinese. So people don't talk about it, but with China's overseas mergers and acquisitions, they don't advertise those brands as foreign, as domestic brand, but as foreign. So there's a novelty.
Let me ask you this question while closing up this discussion. Why is it so powerful, the Chinese system, you know, the Alibaba, the JD.com, that they're able to handle within an hour transaction of $13 billion US? That's hundreds of thousands of deals, and they handle it correctly, including the logistics. What does that say about China's capacity in terms of e-commerce development?
I think two words: infrastructure and big data. So there's a lot of investment going into digital infrastructure, and there's a lot of consuming power coming out from big data. Alibaba is the best because it has the most consumer data, and also because of all those online transactions associated with Alipay, that's make it even easier.
Not very well known is that Alibaba is also China's largest crowd business owner. So it's a huge capability of handling these orders.
Sure. Okay. Many thanks. We have to leave it there. Many thanks to Gong from the University of International Business and Economics, and Dr. Dan Wang, analyst at the Economist Intelligence Unit, a global business intelligence organization.